We had a lot of discussions, and I have to admit there were several of the things that we talked about planning for this symposium that Joe was right about. But one of the conversations we had he said, now Lee, you've got to bear in mind, not everybody's like you, and they're not going to come to event after event after event on energy. And I must comment and congratulate how many of you have indeed sat through hour after hour, and I just think it's remarkable, and I thank you for your interest and attendance. So before I have the honor of introducing the keynote speaker, let me just mention what's going to happen. After the keynote, there will be a half an hour of unscheduled time, and the symposium will shift locations up to the Collis Center, where there will be a discussion of energy and Dartmouth, looking at the opportunities and responsibilities of Dartmouth College in the energy domain. That will be an hour and a half. Please join us for that. So, you know, our speaker, our third keynote speaker, our closing keynote speaker, Dan Reicher, has a truly remarkable resume. He's a wonderful, has a wonderful, multifaceted perspective on the topics we've been talking about today. And rather than the resume is there for you to read, and so rather than my summarizing and reading to you and taking away from his time, I think I will express my admiration and respect for Dan Reicher this way. One of the things I like to do in talking to students is to feed off and hopefully feed their energy about going out and making a difference in the world. And I like to show them examples. And since we're here at Dartmouth College, it's convenient perhaps to show them examples who were former Dartmouth students, and there have been a number of my favorite examples in that regard at this conference, the most recent graduate being Brooking Gatewood, who's been only 2 years out of our classrooms, but certainly one of the shining examples in that regard to show students and the idea as an example of going out and making a difference in the world is Dan Reicher. So please do read all of the remarkable things he's done, including charting uncharted territory with a kayak. Dan, it's a great, great pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Lee. It's really wonderful to be here on campus. Got in at 4 a.m. this morning after one of those drives from Boston that you never want to do. I had to pull over and take a snooze. The policeman rapped on the window and shined the flashlight in at me, and I woke up and kept driving. But I did get here, and it really is wonderful to be here. Not only having the opportunity to speak here today, but we've had our Rockefeller board meeting today. I had the honor of serving on that board for a number of years, and I love the fact that there's these increasing collaborations across the campus between the policy world and the science world, and I think it bodes well for fixing these big problems. It's also wonderful to be here during leaf season. I had that honor about 8 or 10 years ago when I was working in the Clinton administration, and I flew into Burlington, Vermont. It was the height of leaf season. It was a gorgeous day, and I looked on my little travel thing, and it said nothing about a rental car. I said, uh-oh. So I went from desk to desk to desk looking for a rental car. Finally, the last person said, you know, there are no rental cars within 300 miles of here. I said, what do I do? He said, I don't know. So I went out and I hailed a cab, and this elderly gentleman who was driving the cab said to me, son, you got two choices. You can hire me for $600 for 2 days, or you can rent a U-Haul. $17 a day. They deliver it to your motel, and I was in business. So I just wanted you to have a travel tip. So from U-Haul to Udall. Remember Congressman Udall? Congressman Udall used to have this great line. One of the great environmental congresspeople. And, you know, looking out at this hearing, 18 witnesses, a couple more to go. He'd look at the last witness and say, you know, everything has been said, but not everyone has said it. Please go forward. I feel a little bit like that now. You've heard from so many great speakers today, and I'm hopeful that I'll be able to tell you something a little bit different, but I will cover some of the same territory. But I'm so pleased to be here. I made the move to Google last spring, and I'll tell you a little bit about my work there and what we're trying to do at Google. Overall, though, I want to give you a very hopeful case, which is the business case for clean energy, which I call a convenient truth, to honor our current and today's Nobel Prize winner, Al Gore. So with that, this is sort of an upscale Yogi Berra comment. The future is not what it used to be. And if you think about this from the context of energy, we have gone through an absolutely amazing period of time over the last few years. Think about all the things that have happened over the last few years that have something to do with energy. We've never seen a period quite like this before. I think even more so than the big oil shocks of the 70s. All of these things have come together to put energy on the stage. It's why, in fact, at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, I think it's a Friday, yes, a Friday, you're all still here. When I was here, this would not have been the case. And, you know, above all, I think is climate change. This is the iconic image of climate change in my mind, just like those cooling towers from 3 Mile Island loom in many people's minds as the iconic image of the nuclear era. Unfortunately, this is the public's take more than anything else. And this is very personal for me because I delivered our third child in the front seat of a Volvo about an hour north of here in Waterbury, Vermont on a cold day in April in 2004. And that's another story I'll tell you during the cocktail hour. Where is Scott Brown? Is he here? My former colleague. He knows this story well. He can tell you it as well. But the good news, I think, is that, in fact, I think the business community in so many ways is recognizing not just the challenge, but the opportunity that comes with dealing with these massive, massive energy and climate problems. And indeed, this is the moment. There has never been a moment like this. All of these factors coming into play in a way they never have before. And I think it makes for a very exciting time, whether you're a student deciding what kind of career you want, whether you're a faculty person looking at research opportunities, whether you're in the business world, in the policy world. This is truly an amazing moment. You know a lot of this, but I've always thought this is a very graphic way of depicting our oil problem. Who has the oil? Look at that list. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. Who uses it? And of course, Japan and China have switched places in the last few years in a very big way. And look where the U.S. is. This sort of tells you about the mismatch we've got in terms of oil and also the security aspects of our oil problems if you look at the list of countries. And of late, this is one of our big challenges in the U.S., which is from an era 5 years ago when there were virtually no plants anticipated, certainly no plants really under construction. These are the kind of projections we're now looking at as of this year for the build-out of coal. Look at 2010, 17,000 megawatts projected in that year alone. The entire installed base of wind in the United States is roughly 12,000 megawatts.